Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be going over a Druid farming build to get you guys started. This is going to be a really simple starter build and this will work great in open world farming and also in the Abyssal Verge or Castle Ereban, anything like that. This isn't going to be the highest damage build. I went through that one in another video and I'll be leaving a link to it in the description below. But let's go ahead and get started. So for this farming build, the skills I'm using are Stag Charge, I'm using Summon Oak Sage, Raven Swarm, and then finally Surging Stone, and for the primary attack I'm using Ferocious Strike. For the essence that I'm using, let's quickly go over them. So I'm using the Mask of Pouncing for the Stag Charge. This one reads that Stag Charge increases your primal power. So to explain how this build works and plays, guys, it's really simple. So I have three skills here, which are the Stag Charge, the Summon Oak, and the Raven Swarm. These skills just give me as much primal power as possible, and they also help me to move through the map. I think that two of these are dashes. And then as far as the final skill, which is the Surging Stone, this skill is the one that's going to be the spender for the primal power, and it consumes 10 primal power per second, which is quite a lot. But the upside to it is that it has a very low cooldown, so I can apply it again as long as I have the primal power, and it also does huge AoE damage to enemies, and it just covers the whole screen, which is really good when you're farming. So that's kind of the core idea of the build, just so you guys understand. For the chest essence, this is kind of a dead slot. I'm not really using this one at all. Right now I have a chest for Thorn Armor, which I'm not using, so you can just use whatever chest essence you'd like. For the shoulders, I'm using the Source Skull. This is a really good one. It gives you 30% movement speed when you cast your Raven Swarm. So unfortunately, the Druid doesn't have any skill that caps out your movement speed, like say the Crusader Horse or something like that. But if you do have the clandestine items and you also have like movement speed rolls, which I don't have unfortunately, besides on the gloves here, if you have like some nice movement speed rolls, then you can get your movement speed up pretty high with this shoulder essence here. There are also some variations. You can go with like the werewolf transform, which has pretty high movement speed with a lunge, as I showed in my previous video. So there were some nice variations for that as well, but I kind of prefer this build here. This build was a bit easier and more chill to play, but if you do like the werewolf transform, then that can also be very good. Moving on to the next essence, I'm using the Scorched Birth. So for Scorched Birth, this is also for Stag Charge, and it says that Stag Charge now leaps to a target, generating primal power based on the number of enemies hit. So this is really good because normally in farming there's a lot of enemies and you're going to be using AoE skills, so the more enemies you hit, the more primal power you can get. If we take a look at the skills really quickly here, it's giving you 5 primal power per enemy hit, up to a maximum of 15. You also get 2 charges of it, so you're just going to get as much primal power as possible to just have really high uptime of your Surging Stone. For the main hand essence, I'm using the 100 Wings Shade. This is one for the Raven Swarm. It says that Raven Swarm now dashes forward in a flock of ravens where you're untargetable. That isn't really that important. The main thing is that the Raven Swarm is going to be like a dash that's really quick animation like this, which is really good, so that's what you want. And then for the second main hand here, I'm using the Rattling Shell. This is also a dead slot, so it doesn't really matter what you use for the second main hand or the chest essence here. You can just use whatever you like. And then for the offhand essence, I'm using Goring Brace. So this is going to give me primal power when I use my Ferocious Strike, which is the primary attack. You're not going to have to use that much primary attack, but if you're lacking in damage, then this is really good for the offhand here. And this is a really good one. This is the one for Summon Oak Sage, and it says that Summon Oak Sage no longer passively summons and instead actively summons a ring of Oak Sages that automatically seek out and self-destruct, damaging all nearby enemies. So the main reason why I'm using this is, number one, it has 2 charges, so this is really good. But the other thing is that it summons 5 Oak Sages for each charge, which means a total of 10 Oak Sages, and each Oak Sage gives me 2 primal power when it self-destructs, so this is really good. And just for casting the skill, you also get another 9 primal power. I think that this skill with this essence is one of the highest primal power that you can get off a skill. And the other good thing is that with the Stag Charge, like I said, you also get the 30% extra primal generation. So as long as you press Stag Charge first, this will give you a huge amount of primal power back. Like all of these numbers will have 30% extra primal power generation. That's it as far as the essence. For the set pieces, I decided to use 4 pieces of Vithus and 4 pieces of Gloom Guides. Honestly, Gloom Guides is nice because I'm using the dashes, but you don't really need these 4 pieces of Vithus. 2 pieces will be enough. If you want to go for something like 2-piece Vithu, 2-piece Banquet would also work fine. Even just 4-piece Banquet would also be fine. I don't think that the sets will be super important. What will be important though is going for movement speed in the attributes like I said, but also you want to go for cooldown reduction because all of these skills, although they have pretty low cooldown, you want to get that as low as possible. So just remember that the cooldown cap is going to be 30%, and obviously the awakenings for each of these slots can contribute 10% towards that. So yeah, I think that this build with the proper cooldown rolls can work really well. And then for the Paragon tree, I decided to use the Brawler tree. Obviously, if you like using the Vanquisher tree with the Treasure Hunter up here, then you're more than welcome to use this. The last thing that I want to talk about before I show a bit of gameplay is the Eternal Powers. I honestly think that the Eternal Powers for the Druid class are insanely strong, and I'm not sure, to be honest, if these numbers will be the ones that we get in the patch, but these are super strong. So for this specific build, the best Eternal Powers to use would be the Raven Swarm. This one is really good because it says generate an additional 3 primal power when used, and I think that with more pieces you can generate even more. And you can get this specific one on the helm, the chest, and the offhand, I believe. And then for the second Eternal property that's really good, you can go for the Surging Stone one. So Surging Stone here, primal power consumption is reduced by 10% per piece. This is an insane one to have for this specific build, because with 1 or 2 pieces of this, it's going to be super easy for you to have 100% uptime of the Surging Stone, and it's not even like you need it, because even if it does go down, you'll be able to quickly activate it again as long as you can generate primal power quickly. You can get this one on the shoulder, leg, and offhand slots, and these are basically the 2 that I would recommend for this specific build. I'm going to end the video by showing a little bit of gameplay, and you can see the Surging Stone in action. I think it's one of the coolest skills for the Druid. This build is really easy to play. You want to be pressing your Surging Stone first, just to make sure that your primal power is being depleted. So you can tell that it's being depleted and that the Surging Stone is active by looking at all the stones that are appearing on the screen, and you can also see that the skill has this arrow. If you press it again, you can basically toggle it off. But the important thing to note is that primal power is capped, and once you've reached the cap, you're not going to be able to generate even more. So there's no point generating it if you're not spending it at the same time. So just make sure that you're spending it, and then once you've done that, you can press your stag charge and just go through the usual rotation of the skills. And if you set up the build correctly, probably you won't have to worry about pressing the Surging Stone again, because you will be able to maintain the uptime of it. But if you're like me, where right now I don't have the Eternal pieces, I don't have the proper cooldowns and stuff, I do kind of have to keep an eye on it, but it's still relatively easy to have an uptime. So like I said, you want to be pressing the stag charge, get your 30% increase primal power generation, and then you want to be pressing your Oak Sage every time it's off cooldown, because this can be just summoned, and as soon as you're within range of monsters, it's going to self-destruct. And then you want to be weaving in your Raven teleport, because this one is going to help you just close the gap between the monsters. I'm going to quickly show the armory snapshot for you guys, and I'm also going to show the legendary essence UI, because this might be helpful for some people. As I said, do try this build out and let me know your thoughts. The Druid is really shaping up to be a super fun class, and I can't wait to play it on release. For now, I'm going to be signing off, and I'll catch you all in the next video.